All right, the next one is we're coming up on 21 days of prayer and fasting starting next Sunday. Now, as this was announced, you could imagine I've been getting some questions. I've been getting some, I'm not really comfortable. I'm not really sure what to. I want to say this. I'm glad that people are uncomfortable because it is uncomfortable, and it should be uncomfortable. Now, someone has asked me, are we not eating for 21 days? I won't share who said that. They might be on the stage with me right now. Okay, I wasn't going there. But 21 days of prayer and fasting. So really quick, next week I'm going to be starting a 3-week sermon series on prayer and fasting. I was hoping to be able to just get to it then, but then I realized, okay, we need more clarity until then. All right, because we're starting next week. Number 1, why fasting? All right, let me read this quick 2 sentences to you. It's from this book called Spiritual Disciplines for the Christian Life. This is what it says. Christians in a gluttonous, denial-less, self-indulgent society may struggle to accept and to begin the practice of fasting. Few disciplines go so radically against the flesh and the mainstream of culture as this one, but we cannot overlook its biblical significance. I want you to think of Corinthians when Paul writes there and he says, their bellies have become their gods. Right? Another thing I learned is that fasting, this word fasting in the scriptures, appears about 75 times, in baptism about 70. So fasting is actually spoken about more than even baptism is. It's a spiritual discipline, and it's something that the church in America simply we just don't really do. But it is biblical, and it is right. Even I think of Jesus when he's teaching, and John the Baptist's disciples come to him. They say, why aren't your disciples fasting? We're fasting right now. The Pharisees are fasting right now. Why don't your disciples fast? And he essentially says, well, because I'm here, but when I leave, they will again, right? So fasting is a spiritual discipline that we want to give ourselves to. And I want to be clear, the why of this. This is going to be the main crux of the message next week. We're not just fasting to say, hey, I'm giving up meat for such and such a time. Right? It's not necessarily about what we're giving up, but what we're feasting on instead. And so fasting is meant to fast from the distractions, fast even from food which our body needs for a season. We can't fast 52 weeks out of the year, right? We can for a little bit, but not 52 weeks. It's to give up those things that we regularly are committed to and said, I'm giving that time that I normally use for that, and I'm redirecting my love back to God. I'm redirecting my focus back to God. Okay, so a few things with that. All right, guys, you can go to the next slide. Okay, this is a plan. So 3 prayerful expectations before I get this. If we're fasting from something, we're feasting on something else, which is God and namely prayer. All right, so the 3 prayerful expectations that we're going to have for this 21 days, if you choose to participate, and I'd highly encourage that you do. Number 1, week number 1, the prayer theme for that week, and they all start with R if you like alliteration. There you go, that's helpful. Number 1, restore our love and passion for you, God. Restore our love and passion for you, God. Number 2 is, God, rid me of selfish ambition and grow us in humility. And number 3 is redirect us back to your mission of making disciples. So there's 3 prayerful expectations. Here is a 21-day plan. This is what I'm going to do. I'm offering it to you if you want to follow the same plan. So number 1, fasting. What am I going to be fasting from? What am I inviting you to fast from? Number 1 is social media, okay? Social media. I don't even have to get into it. You all know the mindless scroll. Right? You've been there. You've been there where the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is you what? Grab your phone and you open social media. Okay? Fasting from social media for 21 days. Next one is YouTube. Fasting from YouTube. It's amazing to me how much people watch YouTube. It's a lot. Now, I want to say in this, don't be a Pharisee. If a car breaks and you need to fix something, go to YouTube and look it up. All right, I don't want you clanging a wrench into something that you shouldn't be doing. But fasting from YouTube for 21 days. It's a mindless distraction that we all do, or maybe most of us do. All right, the next one, biblical fasting, is primarily food. So the next one that I'm going to do for 21 days is I'm not fasting from food for 21 days. You probably wouldn't see me for 21 days if I did that. I'd be in a corner somewhere crying. But week number 1 is what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast from one meal for the whole week. Week number 2, I'm going to fast for 2 meals for the week. And week number 3, I'm going to fast from 3 meals for the week. Now, before you think I'm really awesome and you're like, I could never do that, I'm still going to eat a little bit, okay? So for that 3rd week, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard, but the hunger pangs are meant to remind us of our need for God. that he is the bread of life and we're to feast on him. So for week number 3, what I'm going to do, fast from all 3 meals, but in the morning, and again, I'm inviting you to do this with me, is I'm going to eat a piece of fruit in the morning, and in the evening, I'm going to have a bowl of veggies, maybe a scoop of hummus or something like that. All right, so that's week number 3. Now, that's the fasting. I'd invite you to follow the same, but I recognize some people can't. Okay, so we're going to get into that in just a second. Now, what am I going to feast on? Number 1, prayer. That's what this time is devoted to, prayer. So I want to give you a couple things for that. Number 1, next week we'll have a prayer list printed for you. We wanted to give as many tools as we can to help make this a fruitful 21 days for you. So next week, Debbie is working on a prayer sheet, and it's going to have lists of prayer requests from our church and people that we know and love, okay? So this is going to be physical needs, spiritual needs, situational needs, our kids in our church, all the above. It's going to have a sheet for you to sit there and just methodically pray through it, okay? So if you like lists, there you go. That's a good one. The other thing I want to say, on the back table, I have printed 3 scripture reading and prayer guides. Okay, there's one called Beginner, there's one called Intermediate, and there's one called Advanced. So, if you didn't know it, in the New Testament, there's 21 epistles, which means there's 21 letters. Okay, so for the Advanced guide, you're going to read all 21 epistles in 21 days. So it's essentially 1 letter per day, but it's broken up a little bit better than that, okay? The Intermediate is you take all the epistles except for the really long ones. So you take out Romans, Hebrews, and the Corinthians, and you're going to read all the rest of the other ones. And then the Beginner one is just the Gospel of John. John has 21 chapters, so it's 21 days. You read 1 chapter of John per day. Okay? Now, getting back to the prayer part, on the back side of that scripture reading guide, on the back table, which I encourage you to take today so you're ready for next week, is a prayer guide. So on that, we have the 3 prayerful expectations for the 21 days, the 3 R's. And then underneath that, I made a grid for all of us to have different ideas of how to pray. Right? There's the acts, there's prayer walks, there's a breath prayer, there's all sorts of different ways to pray. All right? So we're not just giving up during this 21 days, but we're feasting on God. So prayer, scripture reading, and then for me specifically too, I want to do silence and solitude. All right, so this is for the 21 days, all right? So that's the next one. That's what I'm fasting and feasting on. I invite you to do the same thing. Now, next slide. I recognize not everybody can do that, okay? Especially for some people with the food thing, you just cannot. We also talked about this past Wednesday in our life group. We have people that do really jobs that have a lot of physical labor. You can't fast from 3 meals a day if you're doing a lot of physical labor. It won't work for you. All right, so fasting ideas for you. I have 4 categories. Can you see that okay, or is it too small? Good? All right, 4 categories. And again, just during this time, if you've not made up your mind about what you want to fast from, here's some ideas for you, okay? The column number 1 is, I'm just calling it addictives. So this is thing like caffeine. Someone I know is fasting from chocolate. So included in that is sugar, tobacco products, and I put on their late night snacking. Anybody else? I mean, that's an addictive for me. It's like I'm not even hungry, but I could go for a bowl of popcorn right now. All right, so late night snacking. So these are the addictives. These are just the mindless things that we do because we're so used to doing them. Okay. The next category is entertainment. So this is TV, streaming devices, YouTube, video games, TikTok, you name it. And some of you probably don't even know what TikTok is. I don't really know either. I don't have one. But the mindless entertainment things that we do. All right? So that's entertainment. Next is social media. You know that. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those things. And the 4th category is I just put numbing noises. This is the thing that we do. This is we put the headphones in and we just numb ourselves. Right? We're not prayerful. We're not walking in the Spirit because we're constantly just consuming and consuming and consuming and consuming. So the 4 on there are car radio. I would highly suggest that one. If you drive to work like 30 minutes, that's a great time to just commit to prayer and meditation. So car radio, podcasts, mindless eating, and even music. So those are just some ideas, and I would encourage you to start praying on them, okay? And we're going to be starting next Sunday. All right, next slide, guys. Last thing, and then we're going to get back to singing. All right, if you like that really bright blue, if it's burning your eyes, blame Grayson. He picked out the color. 21 days of fasting and prayer. Here is the schedule that our church is going to be walking through for the next 21 days. All right, you can see our weekly gatherings every Sunday. That's normal, March 19th, 26th, and April 2nd. Okay, now here are some of the new ones. Every Tuesday, I asked Debbie to do this with me. I think there's maybe one Tuesday she can't, so I'll find somebody else. We will be here, and we would invite you, if you are able, to come over here between 12 and 1. That doesn't mean we're going to end right at 1. But between 12 and 1, and we're just going to commit to corporate prayer. So if you are able, if you have a flexible job, or if you're home, bring the kids. We're just going to sit and we're going to pray. Very ordinary, but that's what prayer is. All right, so that's every Tuesday through these next 3 weeks we're going to be here. Not this Tuesday, starting next week, okay? Wednesdays, we're going to be taking, your life group leaders may or may not have told you this yet, but we're going to be taking a 3-week break from our life groups. So for these next 3 weeks, not this Wednesday, next Wednesday, we're going to be here at Grace about 6 to 7:15 to 7:30, and we're going to be in here, and the worship team is going to lead us in songs, and we're going to engage in corporate prayer. And again, kids are invited. We may or may not have stuff for kids, but it's not going to be super structured. We're just going to be here to worship and pray. All right? So that's going to be Wednesday night, 6 to 7:15, every Wednesday night, okay? Now, special gatherings you'll see there. Saturday, April 8th, this is the last day of the fast. This is going to be a time for prayer walks. So this is going to be Grace Life Group prayer walks. Your life group leaders will give you more information on what that weekend is going to look like. But this is going to be go to a park in your local community where your life group meets. This is going to be walk around your town and just stop and pray for things along the way. It's very simple prayer walks, okay? And then the next day is Sunday, April 9th. That's the day that we break the fast. That's Easter morning. All right, so Easter morning we'll be here 9 o'clock. For breakfast, and then we're going to have the worship service to follow, okay? Any questions while I'm up here? Would sending these things out to you all be helpful? Okay. Any other questions? Dave, did you have a question, or did you give thumbs up? Thumbs up, okay? Any questions or thoughts? Maybe not thoughts. Save that for personal conversation later. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. The list, the plan that I laid out isn't for everybody. Between you and the Lord, what do you think what's he calling you to give up for this season to focus on him? And again, it's mostly the things that are mind-numbing and pointless that we give ourselves to. And then you get a screen report on your phone, you're like, I've been on my phone 4 hours each day this week. Right? So, any other questions? Okay, cool. Would you stand, and we're going to sing again.